Imagine waking up in a castle where your host never eats, mirrors show no reflection, and every night you hear wolves howling outside your window. You realize the doors are locked from the outside. You are not a guest. You are a prisoner. This is not a fantasy. This happened to a real man in 1897, and what he discovered in that castle would unleash a nightmare that has never ended. Welcome back. Today, I'm going to tell you the complete story of Dracula. Not the movie version, not the legend, but the original tale written by Bram Stoker. A story so dark, so terrifying, that over 125 years later, we still cannot escape it. This is the story of how one man's journey into the mountains of Transylvania brought an ancient evil to the modern world, and why that evil can never be destroyed. Let's begin. The story starts with a young English lawyer named Jonathan Harker. In May 1893, Jonathan travels to Transylvania, a remote region in Eastern Europe. His mission is simple: help an elderly nobleman named Count Dracula purchase property in London. Jonathan has no idea what he's walking into. The journey itself is a warning. As he travels deeper into the mountains, the local people beg him not to go. An old woman gives him a crucifix and whispers, "For your mother's sake." But Jonathan ignores them. He thinks they are superstitious peasants. When he finally arrives at Castle Dracula, he is greeted by the Count himself, an old man, pale, with sharp features and ice-cold hands, but polite, educated, welcoming. At first, everything seems normal, but then Jonathan notices something strange. The Count never eats. He only watches Jonathan eat, staring at him with an unusual intensity. There are no mirrors in the castle, no servants, and the Count only appears at night. Jonathan begins exploring. He finds that all the doors leading outside are locked. He is trapped. One night, he sees something that shatters his reality. He watches from his window as Count Dracula crawls down the castle wall, face down, like a lizard. This is not a man. This is something else. Jonathan tries to escape, but the castle is a maze. One night, he falls asleep in an abandoned room, and that's when they appear. 3 women, beautiful, seductive, but with eyes like predators. They move toward him, whispering, smiling. One of them leans close to his neck. Jonathan is paralyzed. He cannot move. He cannot scream. But just before she bites, Count Dracula bursts into the room. He is furious. He throws the women back and growls, "This man belongs to me." The women hiss at him, demanding, "You never love. Why can't we have him?" Dracula's response is chilling. He throws them a bag. Inside is a crying baby. The women tear into it like animals. Jonathan realizes the horror of his situation. He is not leaving this castle alive, so he makes a desperate decision. He will try to kill the Count himself. He finds Dracula's coffin in the basement, lying in a box of dirt, his eyes open but lifeless. Jonathan raises a shovel to strike, but Dracula's eyes move. They lock onto Jonathan's. Jonathan runs. He climbs out a window, scaling the castle wall, willing to risk death by falling rather than stay another night. And this is where Jonathan's story ends. For now. While Jonathan is trapped, Dracula's plan is already in motion. The Count boards a ship called the Demeter, heading to England. He travels in a wooden box filled with Transylvanian dirt, the soil of his homeland, which sustains him. But he is not alone on that ship. Night after night, crew members begin to disappear. The captain writes in his log, describing a tall, pale figure moving in the shadows. The crew is terrified, but they cannot find the source. One by one, they vanish. By the time the Demeter reaches the English shore, everyone is dead. The ship crashes into the harbor of Whitby. When investigators board, they find the captain tied to the wheel, his hands frozen in a death grip, a crucifix around his neck. The only living thing on board is a massive black dog. It leaps off the ship and disappears into the night. That dog is Dracula. He has arrived in England, and now the hunt begins. In England, we meet two young women, Mina Murray, Jonathan's fiancée, and her best friend, Lucy Westenra. Lucy is beautiful, cheerful, loved by everyone. 3 men have proposed to her: Arthur Holmwood, a wealthy aristocrat, Dr. John Seward, who runs an asylum, and Quincy Morris, an American adventurer. She chooses Arthur. Everything seems perfect. But then, strange things start happening. Lucy begins sleepwalking at night. Mina finds her one evening, standing outside in her nightgown, staring at the horizon. When Mina brings her back, she notices 2 small puncture marks on Lucy's neck. Lucy grows weaker every day. She becomes pale, lethargic. Doctors cannot explain it. Her blood seems to be draining. Dr. Seward calls for help from his old teacher, Professor Abraham Van Helsing, a Dutch scholar who specializes in obscure diseases. Van Helsing examines Lucy and immediately knows what's happening. But he doesn't tell anyone yet. He orders blood transfusions. Arthur, Seward, even Van Helsing himself donate their blood to save her. But every night, she loses it again. Van Helsing fills her room with garlic flowers. He tells them never to remove them. But one night, Lucy's mother, not understanding, opens the window for fresh air and removes the garlic. That night, Dracula enters. By morning, Lucy is dying. She whispers to Arthur, "Kiss me." As he leans in, her teeth grow sharp. Her eyes turn predatory. Van Helsing pulls Arthur back just in time. Lucy dies. But death is not the end. A few nights later, reports spread through London. Children are being found in the streets with small bite marks on their necks. They speak of a beautiful lady who took them. Van Helsing knows. Lucy has become a vampire. He gathers Arthur, Seward, and Quincy. He takes them to Lucy's tomb. When they open the coffin, it is empty. They wait, and at midnight, she appears. But this is not the Lucy they knew. Her face is twisted, seductive, but monstrous. She is carrying a child. When she sees Arthur, she smiles. "Come to me, Arthur. Let me kiss you." Arthur is frozen, heartbroken, but Van Helsing steps forward. He explains that the only way to free Lucy's soul is to destroy her vampire form. Arthur must drive a stake through her heart. Arthur, tears streaming, raises the stake. He strikes. Lucy's body convulses, then goes still. And in that final moment, her face returns to peace. The curse is lifted, but the nightmare is not over, because Dracula is still out there, and he has already chosen his next victim. Meanwhile, Jonathan has escaped the castle. He is found in a hospital in Eastern Europe, barely alive, traumatized, raving about vampires. Mina goes to him. She nurses him back to health. He tells her everything. But even he doubts his own memories. They return to England, and that's when Mina meets Van Helsing. Van Helsing reads Jonathan's journal. He realizes everything Jonathan saw was real, and now Dracula is in London. But they are too late. One night, while the men are hunting Dracula, he appears in Mina's room. He forces her to drink his blood. "Your friends have taken much from me," he whispers. "Now you are mine. You will come to me even when you try to resist." Mina is now connected to Dracula. She can sense his thoughts, and he can sense hers. This is both a curse and an opportunity. Van Helsing realizes they can use this connection to track him. The team launches a desperate plan. Van Helsing, Jonathan, Arthur, Seward, and Quincy begin systematically destroying Dracula's safe houses across London. Every vampire must rest in consecrated earth from their homeland. Dracula brought 50 boxes of Transylvanian dirt to England. If they destroy them all, he will have nowhere to hide. One by one, they break into his properties. They find the boxes, pour holy water on the dirt, and sanctify them. Dracula realizes what's happening. He is running out of time. In a final confrontation, Dracula appears before them, his face twisted with rage. He lunges at Jonathan, but the men surround him with crucifixes and communion wafers. Dracula escapes, but he knows he cannot stay in England. He flees back to Transylvania, to his castle, where he still has one final box of earth. The hunters follow. The chase across Europe is brutal. They travel by train, by horse, racing against time. Mina's connection to Dracula grows stronger. Under hypnosis, she describes what he sees: water, movement. He is on a ship heading up the river to his castle. Van Helsing and Mina go ahead to the castle. The others follow Dracula's ship. At the castle, Van Helsing finds the 3 vampire brides still waiting. He destroys them one by one, staking them in their coffins. Meanwhile, Jonathan, Arthur, Seward, and Quincy intercept Dracula's transport just before sunset. Dracula is in his coffin, being carried by Romani workers. The sun is setting. In minutes, he will wake. A fight breaks out. Quincy is stabbed by one of the workers, but Jonathan and Arthur reach the coffin. They pry it open. Dracula's eyes open. He looks at them with pure hatred. Jonathan drives a knife through his throat. Quincy plunges a Bowie knife into his heart. Dracula's body crumbles to dust. But as he fades, his face changes. For just a moment, there is peace, relief. As if death was what he wanted all along, Quincy Morris dies from his wound, but the rest survive. Mina is freed from Dracula's influence. The curse is lifted. They return to England. The nightmare is over. Or is it? Because here's the thing. In the novel, Bram Stoker leaves something unsaid. Dracula's body turned to dust. But his soul? There is no confirmation it was destroyed. In vampire lore, the body is just a vessel. The curse, the essence, is something deeper. And if you look closely at the novel's ending, there is a strange detail. 7 years later, Jonathan and Mina have a son. They name him Quincy, after their fallen friend. But the novel mentions that this child was born on the exact anniversary of Quincy Morris's death. The same day Dracula was destroyed. Some scholars believe this is a hint that Dracula's essence, his curse, found a new vessel, that he never truly died. He simply waited. So, was Dracula really destroyed? Or did Bram Stoker leave us a darker truth? That some evils cannot be killed, they can only be passed on. Dracula's story is not just about a vampire, it's about the curses we carry, the fears we inherit, and the darkness that never fully leaves us. And maybe that's why, 125 years later, we still tell his story. Because deep down, we know he's still out there, waiting. So here's my question for you. Do you think Dracula truly died at the end? Or do you believe his curse lives on? And if you could ask Dracula one question before his final moment, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the original Dracula story, hit that like button and subscribe. We're exploring more classic horror and dark literature soon. Thanks for watching. And remember, some stories never end.